Cooper Kupp is a former Offensive Player of the Year, a Super Bowl MVP, and let's not forget, a number 1 overall player in fantasy football. He's widely considered a top 10 wide receiver in the league at this point, and he's achieved all this after not being selected until the 3rd round of the 2017 NFL Draft. There were 6 wide receivers taken before him, including 3 selected in the top 10 overall picks. Who were these players? With the 5th overall pick in the 2017 draft, the Tennessee Titans selected Corey Davis, a 6'3" wide receiver out of Western Michigan. He was far and away the top prospect coming into the draft. NFL experts as well as analytics guys all thought he would be the most successful receiver in the draft. Pro Football Focus said he can instantly contribute as a second option for a team and could very well develop into a high-level number 1 receiver. It's safe to say that this projection never came to fruition. Davis had a slow rookie season with a little bit of injury issues, but didn't have any touchdowns and ended up below 400 yards receiving. The Titans would eventually try him at tight end for a season, which produced similar results. Tennessee would decline his 5th-year option that comes with being a first-round pick, thus making him a free agent after the 2020 season, which was his best season of his career, ironically. He had 984 yards and 5 touchdowns, career highs for both. Davis then signed with the Jets in 2021, never playing a full season and hovering around 500 yards for 2 years. Davis keeps sliding down the depth chart for the Jets as they've added Allen Lazard and Mecole Hardman to the mix. From going 5th overall to being a backup wide receiver on your second team in just 6 years has to feel like a punch in the gut. The next wide receiver on this list has secured a starting job and not let it go since entering the league. Mike Williams was drafted by the Chargers with the 7th overall pick. Williams was coming from a college powerhouse in Clemson, where he had been a part of a national championship. He is another big body receiver standing at 6'3" and weighing around 215 pounds. His greatest asset was his ability to get open downfield and catch the deep ball. Most pre-draft rankings had Williams at the number 2 spot, but SB Nation had him as the top receiver coming out and said when Anquan Boldin was at his best in the mid-2000s, he was a dominating and physical receiver who excelled at the catch point. Williams is exactly that type of player. That's quite a compliment considering Boldin's long career. Williams has, for the most part, lived up to those expectations. He's an excellent downfield weapon, and for his career has averaged over 15 yards per reception. If there's a 50-50 ball up for grabs, it's more of a 70-30 when Williams is involved. Now, he hasn't necessarily met the high expectations attached to a top 10 overall selection, but he certainly performed better than the wide receiver ahead of him and the wide receiver selected after him. John Ross was taken with the 9th overall pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. Ross was a speedster coming out of Washington, holding the combine record 40 time of 4.22 seconds. That's faster than Tyreek Hill or Chris Johnson. His highlights from college were epic and had many people thinking that the Bengals might have gotten a steal with him being left on the board as the 3rd wide receiver in the draft. He had some injury history to be concerned about with 2 knee injuries in college, but PFF said if he can stay healthy against NFL-sized players, Ross could develop into a true number 1 option fairly quickly. Ross had a very interesting and extremely disappointing rookie season for the Bengals. He missed the opener due to injury and missed weeks 3 through 5 with an injury as well, but was a healthy scratch in all the games beyond week 5. In training camp, he was named the 6th wide receiver behind guys like Cody Core and Josh Malone. He had 1 carry in week 2 that resulted in a fumble. That would be his only touch of his entire rookie season. It's rare to see a first-round pick, even less a top 10 pick, have such an abysmal rookie year, and things really didn't get much better from there. Ross would stay in Cincinnati for the remainder of his contract, but didn't reach 1,000 career yards. He'd missed several games for injury and healthy scratches throughout those seasons, and eventually not be retained. Ross signed with the Giants in 2021 and would appear sparingly through the season, gaining 224 yards and 1 touchdown. Ross was not on the roster in 2022, but has recently signed a reserve future contract with the Chiefs. If any team can get the most out of him, it's Kansas City. Our next player has been on 3 teams already in his young career. Zay Jones was the first wide receiver selected in the 2nd round of the 2017 draft by the Buffalo Bills. He was an absolute stud out of East Carolina and is another big body possession receiver in this draft. He was known for his excellent hands and projected to be a consistent number 2 wide receiver in the long term. His pre-draft rankings were all over the board, with SI having him the lowest as the number 6 wide receiver. His athleticism wasn't eye-popping, but his film was consistent and he showed he could handle the physicality of the league. In his rookie year with Buffalo, he'd appear in all but 1 game, but only reached 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. The 2017 Bills were an atrocious offense though, so it's hard to put his low numbers solely on him. In year 2, he'd more than double his numbers and looked to be on the right path. However, he got traded early in the 2019 season to the Raiders, where he'd really never have much usage and become a free agent following the 2021 season. Last year, he signed on with the Jaguars just like every other free agent in the league and have his most successful year to date catching passes from Trevor Lawrence. He seems to be in a great situation, and I think you'll continue to see his game grow as he's only 27. The next wide receiver taken in this draft has experience at both receiver and running back and has put those skills on display in the league. Curtis Samuel was selected with the 8th pick of the 2nd round by the Carolina Panthers. Coming out of Ohio State, where he played with other future pro wide receivers like Terry McLaurin, Paris Campbell, and Noah Brown, Samuel was forced to play a lot of running back and be the gadget play guy. He took those skills to the NFL and was utilized immediately as a dual threat. Samuel had a slow rookie season, but showed flashes with long runs. He really began to pop in his 2nd year, going for a 53-yard TD catch and a 33-yard touchdown run. His big playability was fun to watch and earned him even more touches in 2019 and 2020. As a free agent following that season, he followed his former head coach Ron Rivera to Washington and continued his success outside of an injury-riddled 2021 campaign. He seems to be in a good situation with other talent around him. He's met expectations of his draft stock for sure, and could help a young quarterback look good going into the upcoming season. The next wide receiver is the last one taken before Cooper Kupp, and perhaps is the 2nd best wide receiver from this draft. JuJu Smith-Schuster was drafted at the young age of 20 into the NFL by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was immediately the number 2 wide receiver on the roster behind the All-Pro, All-World Antonio Brown. Brown was the best in the game when JuJu came on the scene, but was having a lot of turmoil within the locker room. In 2018, Smith-Schuster took over the lead spot and had nearly 1,500 yards receiving. Brown still had 1,200 yards, but because of JuJu's success and Brown's issues in the locker room, it was enough to let Brown walk. Unfortunately, it appears that much of Smith-Schuster's success was due to so much attention being paid to Brown. Since that 2018 year, JuJu hasn't gone over 1,000 yards again and is now on his 3rd team in 3 years, even though he was part of the Super Bowl champions last season. He's still only 26 years old, so there's a chance he is still in his prime window, but it looks like his greatest success was in the year 2 and might have just been a flash in the pan. And that's everyone drafted ahead of Cooper Kupp in the 2017 NFL Draft. Kupp has nearly 2,000 more yards than the next closest player and 15 more touchdowns. Situation definitely matters, but it sure makes the Rams look smart to have grabbed him when they did.